All right. Welcome to another episode of At Witt's End. I'm Ken. That's Carson. And
I don't know if you're actually pointing in the correct direction. I think it's
yeah,
actually the other way around in our
the other way
videos.
around over top. But
He
anyway,
pointed
Carson's
at me.
6,000 miles away, 9 hour difference. It's morning on the west coast of the United States. It is
Almost bedtime
early
on
evening.
the mid-evening, 7:30,
Yeah. Although
19:30.
you're probably out because you got locked out of your place today. So, welcome to another podcast.
How we doing? How
And
we doing?
yeah. So just to start, just wanted to review the NFL games yesterday in the United States. I don't know if the playoffs are a big deal in Europe. From
Oh
what
yeah,
I've seen of
definitely.
American football, it's growing. I would say at first I said it's kind of boring games, but I got to admit the Jaguars and Chiefs. As I look back, it was actually a pretty good game. The Jaguars made an attempt to come back. Um,
I think
Trevor Lawrence, they just blew it. They had so many opportunities. They
yeah, they
blew.
they
Uh,
they definitely had opportunities, and that was, I don't know if this is the correct word, but exacerbated by the fact that Patrick Mahomes, got hurt and
yeah,
played through his injury there. That
surprisingly.
was ballsy. So like seeing Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best player in the league right now, just playing on a ankle. It's pretty cool to see. It's atypical, I think, for a lot of players, but it is the playoffs, and they are making a Super
Did
Bowl.
they determine though is it just a sprain? So he just
Um,
needs to ice it and keep
yeah,
off
I
it this week.
assume that's what it is. I'm not sure. I don't think it's anything serious. I haven't really checked through the news on that.
So the game ended 27-20. Chiefs took it. Kind of
Yeah,
expected, but congrats to the Jaguars on a great season.
yeah.
You have a friend that's on the staff there, so congratulations to Nick.
Second
I
second
think
year for Trevor
they
Lawrence.
still get a ring, right? They get a
No,
ring for some. They get rings for everything now. Okay.
no.
Well, they get a bonus. And then the second game, quite frankly, was boring. I don't even want to talk about it. The Eagles pretty much smashed up on the Giants.
I will say,
I turned off the game early.
yeah, but I will say for the Giants, very unexpected for them to get to the divisional round. So congrats to them on a very good year. Their new head coach,
Yeah.
I think, a fan favorite head coach, and it's
New
good to
York
see.
finally had a winning
Uh,
season on one of their football teams. So,
both their
yeah.
teams had very competitive seasons this year. The Jets were very competitive, so
Yeah. Such
they
a
got a
big
good
market.
they
Yeah.
got a good future too. They have the number one cornerback in the league, Sauce Gardner, on the Jets. They really
Yeah.
just need a quarterback, and they could be pretty good because they have a defense.
So, real quickly, I don't want to stay on the NFL too long. Bengals and Bills. Who are you
Bills.
taking today? That's for folks in Europe. The rest of the playoff games are Sunday today. So you got the Bengals and the Bills and Cowboys and the 49ers. So you're taking the Bills.
I picked them in the
I
Super
kind
Bowl, so
yeah, I
to
still
be
like
there.
I'd like to see I like both teams quite frankly. I like both
Yeah,
quarterbacks. I wouldn't be upset if the Bengals upset them.
yeah.
Cowboys 49ers obviously Northern California roots, 49ers fans, friends on the team. Got to go with the Niners
Yeah.
and the
See
Cowboys maybe this is
tickets
their year. I don't know.
tickets to that game were 400 for some high up nosebleeds at the end zones. So not a cheap game. I saw
Yeah.
some tickets going over $10,000 a seat. So
And as I thought about it, we spoke about it during the week. NFL in Europe next year, 6 games,
5 games. Yep, five games,
5 games.
5 or 6. Um,
So two in Germany and the rest in London.
England,
Or
yeah. So I think it's 5 games. So there's 2 games at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in North London. One game at
which
Wembley.
somebody asked me about it. That's why I brought it up. In Tottenham, I told him was the stadium they built
Tottenham.
specifically for NFL, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the right. Okay.
yeah. That's North
All right.
London. It's a brand new stadium. I bet that's a stadium I've been to. It's very, very nice. It's very comparable to NFL stadiums.
So
And
I did. He asked me how they would do it with teams in Europe because we were talking about expansion to Europe, and I said London's next, and I said I assume like the London,
well, so that
the
was a
London, I don't know, whatever
that was
would come for 3 or 4 games, and then vice versa.
So that was a thing that the commissioner got asked, during a conference where they talked about these 5 games. By the way, 2 games in Germany. For sure, one is in Munich at Allianz Arena where Bayern Munich plays. I don't know where the other one will be. Probably be Frankfurt, up in that region, northern Germany. Um,
Right.
so there'll be 2 games in Germany this year, which German fans are really they're big fans of the NFL. So and they're 2 good, I don't know who they're playing, but both the Chiefs and the Patriots will have, home games in Germany, so I don't know the,
Dude, I'm thinking the Austrians are bigger fans than the Germans now.
Austrians are advanced too, but
Since the university system now has collegiate football and Germany does not, and the Vikings of Vienna are the EFL champs, correct?
yeah, ELF, yeah, yeah,
I don't know,
European
man.
League of Football,
Yeah,
yep.
I'm
Um,
impressed with the
but to go
home
along with
country.
your point about expansion to the Europe, so in a press conference where they announced these, someone posed that question, "Where's the expansion next?" And Goodell opened the door to not only a team in Europe, but a division in Europe. So multiple
Mm.
teams in Europe because of the logistics of it, right? Having to travel so far. Logistically, it makes more sense to have a division there than a single team,
To use a completely different business model, I mean, a different industry, kind of the In and Out Burger concept of expansion.
which
You don't
did
go in and
see.
build one restaurant. Yeah, they're
And
going east.
they're going to Nashville. They're moving
Yeah.
east. First one across Mississippi. Far side, we'll get
So,
back to
folks, if
that.
God, going on
No,
a tangent,
don't.
but if you
Yeah,
don't know,
no
okay.
tangent. Let's stay on top of it. It's the first. It's the
Wait, I
first.
got to explain it.
All
So,
right.
it what In and Out does is they don't open one restaurant and slowly go across, say, the United States. They go into a market, they build a commissary because everything's fresh, not frozen, and they open up multiple restaurants. So it's a big investment, and In and Out is a family-owned company. So that's all I'll say.
Yep, and the first one across the Mississippi headed to Nashville. So won that there, but NFL, yeah, there's rumors about a division, and it would be a complete realignment of the conferences too. So teams will change conferences, divisions will change. So it'll be a complete overhaul if that were to happen. But the thought
Wow, I
is
didn't know it was
four,
that
five, 6 teams.
complex. That's
If
a pretty
they
complex thing to
and
do. I mean, that's
there's
major.
there's definitely I think the facilities are there. I think the one. I think the fans are there. Honestly, I think you could have
That
a
will
Munich.
truly make
I
the
think you could
Super
have
Bowl a
a.
global experience.
I think you could have a London, uh, possibly a like Liverpool or Manchester,
Manchester,
um, a Paris,
Munich,
Munich, and like a
Paris.
Berlin or Frankfurt. I think
What
those
Paris? I don't know about Paris.
Paris could do it. By the way, they did just
Really?
have a Paris NBA game not too long, a few days
Yeah,
ago.
NBA. I mean, they have basketball. They're pretty big in
That was a
basketball.
yeah, France is a basketball country, but that was a
I'm
big hit
trying to
for the
think of
NBA.
another major city. I mean, Vienna, but I don't think. I
Yeah, it'd
don't
be
know.
tough.
That'd be pretty
Um,
far east.
the other I could see like Barcelona would kind of be interesting.
Man, talk about American fans wanting to go see an away game.
Yeah, yeah. So won that there, but speaking of Barcelona and football,
Oh, yeah.
so
Good
a nice
transition.
transfer there, right. So
And
it's
I have
not
nothing to say about this.
it's
This
not
is
specific
news to me.
to
So,
yeah, not specific to Barcelona, but something new that I've been watching a little bit. It's this new Spanish football league. Football being soccer, I'll refer to it as football because it's Spanish. But it's called the Kings League, and it is a entertainment league, I guess you could say, more than
like
like
the
a competitive.
XFL,
Less. Yeah, it's kind of yeah. It's more entertainment than anything. So it was started by Gerard Piqué, who is a Spanish. Um, he's a retired player. He played in the Spanish leagues, won the Champions League, won the World Cup with Spain, among other football ex and current football players, but also a streamer on Twitch. So a guy, the largest Spanish streamer, live streamer, who regularly gets 100,000 viewers on his live streams. He's a Spanish live streamer. His name's Ibai. Um, I'm not sure if
I
I'm
still don't
correctly
get the
pronouncing,
attraction of that stuff. So,
but he's a live streamer, and they partnered together on the Kings League. and it is a 7 versus 7 side. It's played at
Oh, so
a
it's a like a 7-on-7. Is it shorter field or
smaller
something?
field,
Indoor?
smaller goals, smaller goals. It is indoor. The
Did you say
interesting,
smaller girls at first?
yeah, that is a weird one. Interesting, but smaller goals, smaller field. It's played indoors, but it doesn't have walls. It has normal out of bounds at
So
the
it's kind of like the
Cooper
XFL, the
Arena.
Arena League. Arena
But
League is what I was thinking of.
it is more interesting. So again, it's about entertainment value, right? So they're most of the players on the team are just normal people, right? So they're people Spanish guys applied to play and they got drafted. And it was just normal guys, right? That
Were there
are joining the league.
tryouts or
I had to
just
submit an application and everything. I don't know the details of how they were selected, but it's just like a bunch of random, it's just guys from Spain wanting to play football. But then it gets even more interesting. So each team can have a retired and a current professional football player on their team that plays for them,
oh, so
right?
only one? They limit the amount of professionals.
Yeah. So well, they can have one of I think either one of each or one per
So, a
team.
guy, if Pele was still alive in a wheelchair, he could be the
Yeah.
coach or
So
manager.
Sergio Aguero has a team. He's a Argentinian
I have no
player.
idea who.
He's a
Okay,
retired Argentinian player. He wasn't playing for them in this World Cup, but he's one of the most famous football players in the world. Very good in his prime, an elite player. But he has joined the league. He has a team, and he plays for his team. There's other players like Iker Casillas. He's a legendary keeper. Um, there's a lot of ex-retired players, but there's also current players that play. So Chicharito, who plays in LA, he plays for this league. He plays on the team. But what's interesting, there's also a current player that plays in a Mexican wrestling mask, and he plays fully sleeves, so you don't see his tattoos, and he so you don't see his identity. And I'm not
so
sure
he's going to
exactly
reveal
why.
himself.
I
Oh,
think it's because potentially there's like rumor of his like contract or something, but there's like the mysterious nature about him, um, and I think people have found out who it is. He's like a journeyman Spanish player, but he plays in like this mask, this like Mexican wrestling mask,
eh,
um,
a good
and
gig, man.
and it
Good
fully
gimmick too.
covers. He fully covers his arms because he has a bunch of tattoos, so
Are
you're
they
not supposed to tell.
eliminating draws and penalty kicks to where they just play till someone
So,
wins?
so it gets more interesting, right? So the way it starts is like dodgeball. They put the ball in the center of the field, and every player starts on the end of the goal line, and you sprint to
It
the
just runs
center
for it.
to get the
Oh,
ball,
that sounds awesome.
right?
Okay,
So
that
that's
is
how it
entertaining.
starts, and it gets more entertaining, right? So penalties are a throwback to how the MLS did them. So penalties start at the halfway line, and it's you dribble to go score a goal, so the goalkeeper can come out. You have five
And
seconds to
watch.
score from you start in the midfield, and you can dribble and then
So it starts
shoot
at
or
the what I guess the 50-yard line.
the
You
midfield
dribble. You have
line.
5 seconds.
Yeah, you
You
have
have
five.
5 seconds to get there, but the goalkeeper can come out any distance. And
Yep.
huh?
Yeah, so it's a throwback to how the MLS has done penalty kicks, and they're stopped a lot more because it's a smaller goal too. So
Oh,
there was a penalty shootout earlier because it was a
yeah.
tie. There was a tie game into after time was up. It was 2-2, and they went to a penalty shootout, and the winner is 2-1 on penalties. So they only scored 2 out of 5 to win, and the other team only had
Wow.
one penalty.
So I'm thinking on that the start of the game where the ball's at midfield, it would be I guess you would do like the NFL for punting and stuff. You have a runner, a couple of
Yeah,
runners,
you
the
have you
guys that can
fast gotta
sprint are super
go.
fast because you got to have people back if you don't get the
Yeah,
ball.
yeah,
And
yep, yeah. So,
huh,
but that's not even the craziest part. So they have these cards that they select pregame. So the coaches pregame open this box and it's got a bunch of
you are totally
envelopes.
into this already.
It's interesting. It's wild. I think you would enjoy it too. It's very different. It's very entertaining. They're only 40-minute games too. But they have
Even better,
these
and
envelopes.
alcohol sold.
Yeah, they have beer sponsor. But these gold envelopes, and each coach selects an envelope at random. There are 5 cards in these envelopes, so you can play your card at any time. So there is A
Get out of jail free kind of thing.
essentially, yeah. So the one card is a take a penalty shot, so you can take a penalty at any point in time in the game. Another
That's kind
card,
of stupid. I
another
don't know
card
about that.
is take one of the opposing team's players off the field for 2 minutes. And
Oh,
another
that's still kind of stupid, but I like it.
entertainment, right? Another card is each goal for the next 2 minutes counts as 2 goals.
2 goals that I like because that gives you incentive to actually do something skillful and
Yep. Then there is a Joker card. We can select anything, and then a steal a card. So when a
what do you mean
the,
select anything? So you could have the
no
whole team
no no
decide.
select one of the other cards. Select one of the other
Oh,
cards.
okay. I was
So
gonna
that's your
say
Joker.
you could have the whole team go for a beer for 5 minutes and come back, and
and
yeah.
and then there is a steal a card. So when another team plays a card, you can steal their card. Which I saw there was a case where this happened. A team played a penalty card because they were down like 2-1. They had a penalty shot card, so they played the
Wait,
card.
they're already playing?
Oh, they started January 1st. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought this was a concept.
No, they played today. Like this was
Oh, wow.
the third week. And I'll tell you a little bit how it was today. But yeah, so a team played a penalty shot card. I think they were down like 2-1. It was late in the game, and they played a penalty shot card. Well, the team that was up 2-1 had to steal a card, so they played their steal a card and stole it, got a penalty shot, and went up 3-1. So it's it's a wild thing. And then I didn't see this in the rules, and this stunned me a
So
little.
it's just in Spain right now.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah,
other teams out. How
yeah.
about in Portugal? No teams there. I mean,
I don't think
basically.
so. It's a small, like they
Oh,
play in the same arena and everything. But
huh.
another thing I saw during the games today, I don't know what it is, but there was another box of random envelopes where they pulled out an envelope and they had a card, and I don't know what the other ones are, but the one they had today during the match, one of the matches I was watching, it was 2v2. So they had for a period of time 2v2 play only. So they had a
What is
goalkeeper and
that?
one player, two players versus two players for like a couple minutes.
So the one team has,
They
well,
both
they
have
both
two
have a
players
goalie, and then they
and
have one guy on
another
the
field
field.
guy. Yep. Yeah, one goalkeeper and
Oh,
another just player.
so basically, it's actually 1-on-1 until you
Yeah.
get to the goal.
Yeah. I mean, even offense, your goalkeeper is playing with you, so you can shoot from like your own end.
All
Um,
right.
but like during that, one of the one team had like 2 or 3 goals, and the other team didn't score a goal, so it was very one sided
Well,
for that team.
I wish our podcast was super famous and we were making all kinds of money like Barstool Sports. You know, uh, El Prez could buy a team. That
Yeah,
would be,
the Barstool
the
joins the
initial
Kings
team, the
League.
Barstool. Yeah, that would be their kind of
They
soccer
would love
team.
that. Yeah,
I don't know if
get
they're
some
into
American
soccer or
flag.
Premier League, but
They
that
are.
would be an awesome thing to get.
They've expanded. Barstool's expanded to England. They've had a bunch of
Oh,
English
really?
guys. They have some podcasts.
Man,
They watch
Portnoy, get
Premier
on
League.
that. Hell,
But
we
yeah,
got
it's
a professional pickleball league. You can't afford one of those teams either, but
yeah, it's
whatever.
been interesting. So the games are 40 minutes long. They play on Sundays every Sunday. I think there's going to be 11 matches, and they play in the playoffs. And the playoffs and the final, I think, are at Barcelona's stadium, which should be interesting.
Olympic
Um,
Stadium? Or the
Camp
or
Nou,
Barcelona
Camp,
soccer team, the one
yeah,
right down by the
yeah, Camp Nou.
beach.
It's the
Yeah,
biggest stadium in Europe. So
yeah, which I've
the
been to, but yeah.
um so they're playing the final at Camp Nou. But the matches I was watching today, so I watched like Sergio Aguero's match. It peaked at like 510,000 viewers on Twitch.
So was this on T? It was on Twitch.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they
were there
live streamed
people in
all
the
night.
stands?
It's a small stands. It's a very small setting
But
for
there was an audience there.
yeah, a small audience.
Okay.
It's more definitely more for the live stream and the production factor. Like it's not a
So
good live stream. There's announcers talking like rambling on during the game, and they have the
yeah,
coaches on the
is it in
mics too,
Spanish?
fully in Spanish. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, so if I get the
yeah.
live stream, I can't really understand
But
it.
it's fun to
So,
watch. It's actually very entertaining gameplay because they're just like they're dudes from Spain just playing soccer with some pros
yeah.
mixed in.
Will At Wits End be going to any future matches?
That'd be a fun one to go to. That'd
Yeah.
be
I
interesting.
tell you
Well,
what, though, it's scary. If that were to become popular, it goes throughout Europe. The hooligans, you know,
it's
that could be scary. What happens at
it's
a
a
event like that?
it's definitely an interesting, and one of the cool things too. So they have VAR, so the video review, which is obviously very controversial. But what's cool about the way they do their video review, it's like American like football, where they only have
On the
one
field?
chance to do video review. But when they do the video review, so if you get it right, you keep it. If you get it wrong, you lose your review.
Yeah.
When the refs go to review it, they have just big giant television screens on the side of the field. So the ref just stands in front of it, and everyone watches it
Like
at the
he's
same
watching in a
time.
living room.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just like these big screens on the side of the field, and they're all watching it together, and they make the decision like right there in front of everyone.
Wow.
So
Okay, I've got to find, or send me a link to it. I've got to find that sometime.
yeah, it's called the
So
Kings League. So if you're listening, check it out.
let me write the Kings League.
Yeah, Kings League. Yeah, started by PK. Probably don't know PK, but you know his ex, which is actually there's a very funny stuff I won't go into about
What, a Spice Girl or something?
They broke up recently, and it's been a controversial breakup. Shakira is his ex, Gerard
Oh,
Pique's
really?
ex. Yep. And they recently
Wow.
broke up, and they've been going back and forth with a bunch of kind of little things like I guess this is actually related to the Kings League. They Shakira came out saying like she's a Rolex, and he's
Was it
or
Casio?
he's yeah, he dropped her for yeah, exactly, he dropped her for Casio basically. And
Oh, he
he
dropped her for another girl.
I don't know exactly, but something
Oh,
about like she's a Rolex and now he's got a Casio. He Gerard Piqué got Casio to sponsor the Kings League, so he clapped back with that. And then he talked about how he's like riding around in a Twingo, a Renault Twingo, which is a really
yeah.
cheap little car you can get. He showed up to the Kings League in a Twingo, so like they've
Good for
been
him.
yeah, it's been pretty funny and
He's keeping
amusing.
his money in the bank instead of spending it on a Rolls Royce
Yeah,
or
he
a Casio.
showed up in his Twingo, and he has his they got sponsored
And
by Casio, and Casio clapped back too. They were like, Casios are high quality watches that everyone enjoys.
well,
So
in fact, your buddy Baldessari on his thing is doing a G-Shock
yeah,
review. So Casio G-Shock is actually quite a sought after, unique, and great watch. I mean, you've got
great
a couple.
watches. I got
So
a few. So and shout out to like
yeah,
mentioned Teddy Baldessare. We'll have a watch episode at some point. We both enjoy
God,
watches,
yeah, because
but
as
Teddy
you know, I
Baldessare is a great YouTuber in the watch space.
yeah, and Rolexes. Too many people have them. They're not
Tough to
that
yeah,
unique.
yeah.
I
So
think there's probably more people with Rolexes now than there are Casios anymore. But
so
let's see, what did we else we want to talk about?
yeah, so that's the Kings League. Entertaining and fun. Check it out if you have a chance. Sunday evening for if you're in Europe. Sunday mornings in the U.S. or afternoon on the East Coast. Check it out.
Yeah,
But moving on
God,
to
that, no. Without moving on, that would be a great Euro vacation. Madrid, Barcelona, even Portugal, Lisbon, and then spend a day or two seeing one of these games.
I don't know if you can get
You know.
into the normal league, but maybe the playoffs and
Oh
like the
yeah, no,
normal.
no.
I don't know
Maybe
how
a
to get those
few years
tickets.
down the road.
Yeah, when they get a little bit bigger.
So
They're
when you're tired of walking around Barcelona, you can lay in your hotel room and watch it
yeah.
Spanish TV and see this.
Their main sponsor too is Cupra, which is kind of interesting. They have a car
Huh.
sponsor, Cupra
Yeah.
Automobiles. So
All right. So
Spanish
segue
autos,
into another. I, I hate to say European sport because it's owned by an American company.
entertainment sport for sure.
Huge entertainment, and definitely it's been around a long, long time. But
Yeah, this is not a
definitely
new
with the
sport.
Netflix, series, really has expanded globally and in the U.S.
And a
And
topic we
that's
talk about all the
F1.
time. Yeah, so
Yeah,
F1, Formula
yeah.
One. The new
I kind of
season is
hate the fact that
obviously.
it's popular now, but see, folks, Carson gets into the drama of the drivers a little bit as well. So
I
I
like
don't
everything
really,
surrounding
I
F1.
don't really know what this
It's a
is. There's
fun.
a controversy, I guess. So I'll let you explain.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it's much a controversy, but maybe conspiracy theory is more like it. It remains to be
Well,
seen, right? So
I
The
think you're
preface,
yeah, you're saying the publicist basically is kind of prepping for something coming out.
yeah, well, it remains to be seen what it may lead to. We don't know the full story yet, so but we'll preface this by saying the next season of Drive to Survive comes out mid-February, so about a month away,
On
uh,
Netflix.
on Netflix. And obviously, it's a massive series. Everyone loves it. It boosted. Everyone knows it. It boosted the sport a ton, and
Well,
it's
and in
just a
fact,
massive
people
fan
that
series.
don't like F1, they'll watch the series and all of a sudden becomes fans of F1
It's a
because
reality show.
that actually happened. We mentioned previous on a podcast our friends from Texas into NASCAR. They watched the Netflix series and they're now into F1. So
Yeah. So
great
big
commercial.
deal. Drive to Survive is a big deal for the world. Everyone loves Drive to Survive. But so it comes out soon, right? Well, in the last few days, a article was published in GQ magazine UK, the UK version. Um, and obviously GQ is a major publication. And they did an interview with Lando Norris. So if you've listened to our podcast before, you know I'm a fan of Lando and McLaren. Um, I think
Just
Lando's
a wee bit.
I think Lando's one of the best drivers on the grid. He's obviously, for me, I think he's never had the machinery, but he is. I think he's
And it sounds like, based on the article and what we know about him, he would agree with you.
yeah.
And
So
many in the F1
I
world
think
would
everyone
as well.
else agrees. I think he like in the article they mentioned he's been rated number two only to Max Verstappen in terms of
Yeah,
purely
he's
driver's
in,
quality.
to use another term from the watch industry, the holy trinity of drivers would be Max, Hamilton,
The
and people consider Lando
Well,
the modern.
I would say of the future of F1, it's Max, Charles, and Lando, or Max, George, and Lando. One of those
Yeah, George,
three.
I think he's up there now too.
Yeah, I think those three. I think Max and Lando are definitely one, two. Charles and George to be one or the other. The previous I think Hamilton is back with Fernando. They're the aging out kind of crowd. They're the older guys.
Yeah,
So
and how old is
generationally.
Hamilton? It's kind of like hockey. Oh, he's 23. He's getting old for the
No,
sport.
he's mid to late 30s, I
Hamilton's
think.
what, 28?
Uh,
Hamilton is?
yeah, he's like
Oh
mid to
wow. Okay.
yeah, I think
Maybe when I first became aware of him, he was in his 20s or something.
yeah, he's
So
been
good.
winning for he's 38 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So he's not
Much
young.
older than I thought.
He's been
So
around for a
he's
while.
a grandfather in that sport.
um but yeah, so this article came out and it was a fluff piece. Like you and I both read it. It's just pure fluff piece, right? There's nothing interesting about it.
Yeah.
There's nothing controversial about it. There's nothing new that they published. It is just a fluff piece. And
Well, I was reading this and I mentioned it on a previous episode. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and they have. I don't dislike them. I actually like them, but they have the worst publicist in history. What they need is Lando's publicist, because this was a. They need
they're
this kind of article and not go on TV and
but
talk about
their
shit.
their uh their personality is so opposite of Lando. I think Lando is not like
That's
the
why they
type.
need a good publicist to tell them that.
Yeah.
I think their publicist is like, yes, somebody like Lando, their publicist is also tuned into F1, so they know what to say and the other drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
And, quite frankly, I never thought of Lando as kind of a fashion, handsome, pretty boy, and that's what they talked about. I'm
It
like,
is
really?
GQ, yeah.
But the article was in GQ. Yeah.
Yeah, it's GQ. So they have pictures of Lando in a $7,000 Louis Vuitton jacket, which is crazy, but he
Yeah,
would
but
never
all
wear.
the F1 drivers wear $1 million watches. I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
well, yeah, I don't know if you saw in
So,
the photos, he's wearing the Richard Mill, like a McLaren Richard Mill. So he does
yeah,
have a
which
multi-million dollar
I'd
watch.
love to have,
It's
but I don't think they're that attractive. I mean, it definitely is uh,
racing
a fashion and a
fashion.
statement piece.
Yeah. But so this article comes out, and I don't know if there were three things that I think were most interesting to me, and actually more two things. And so the first one that I thought was very interesting, they pointed out that the fan poll of 150,000 fans from
Oh
around the
yeah,
world,
yeah.
Lando is the most liked by girls and Gen Z. which I thought was kind of funny. I was kind of
Or
surprised.
who's Gen Z again? I
Gen
can't
Z
keep up
is
with all those.
after
Is
Jack.
you?
No, no, after Jack. So
Younger.
Jack is the
Okay.
last millennial year, so it's younger. So
Yeah.
20 born in 1996 is the first year of Gen Z. I think it goes to like 2010 or something. 2005, something like that. But
Yeah.
Gen Z is the youngest of the F1, besides like the little kids, but they're the youngest of the F1 fan base, which I think makes a lot of sense. So Lando owns a esports team. He owns
Yeah.
a team called Quadrant. I know they have like a Rocket League professional team, so
Were
that is
you
pretty
aware of
good.
Quadrant before
Yeah, I
you got
follow.
into Lando?
Yeah, no, no, Quadrant's new. Quadrant's new. So he
Okay.
started that only recently. I followed Lando on Twitch for quite a while, like since he started. Usually
So does he go on Twitch and just play?
plays video games.
You know.
Yeah, play
Uh,
Call of Duty, and he'll do F1 stuff like on his sim rig at home. But yeah, he
yeah.
plays video games and hangs out with his friends, which I like that about him. He's just it's kind of accessible for an F1 driver, right?
well,
'Cause you can chat
and
with
they
him
did
on
say
there.
that in the article, and they kept harping on it how grounded he is. And he's just a normal guy. He's wonderful. And I go, no, he's an F1 driver, man. He's not a
Well,
normal guy.
and you think that too, and I will say I did. This was like the other third point. They talked about they do like kind of lay that on you pretty heavy that he's pretty normal and grounded, and he seems pretty normal and grounded. But his dad is
I
one
think
of the
he's
richest.
approachable.
Yeah, yeah, he is.
He appears approachable, probably not in real life.
His dad was one of the like 500 richest people in England. Like I think he was like right about
Oh,
500.
wow.
So
Was
his
that in the
family's
article? No.
they kind of hinted at it, but that's other
Oh,
like you can find
I
out
did see where
he's
they,
wealthy.
because of his, basically his career's been with McLaren, that,
McLaren,
he's a woking guy,
yeah.
which is the town McLaren's
But
in, by the way.
now he
He
lives in
spent what?
Monaco. His
Monaco.
residence is Monaco with all the other F1 drivers. Normal.
But wouldn't he also be spending a lot of time at the track in Barcelona, the test track there? Or is that
I'm not
not for
sure.
F1?
No,
No.
it's not normal for F1. They vary. Like I don't know what McLaren's. I assume Silverstone is their like primary
Where
test
they,
track.
so when he
But
comes to town to work on his car, it would be
he'll
at
go to
Silverstone,
no, he'll
not
go to Woking.
Barcelona.
They're very
Is
limited
there,
on how often you can actually drive the car on the track.
but
Uh,
there's no track in Woking, is there?
no, because
Does McLaren
they
have a
can't
track?
drive it on the track. They'll be in the simulator. So
Uh,
F1 rules are very strict on how often you can actually put the car on the track. So he can't like they can't put their car on the track right now.
so that's the biggest thing about the lack of his success and podium and being on the podium, is that the car is not up to his standards. So I mean, they got to basically tune the car to him. So
Which
that's
is
all in simulation. It's not on track. They don't take that car down to Barcelona and have him come in for 2 weeks
yeah,
or something.
yeah.
Oh,
It's mostly
that
simulation.
sucks.
Which they did mention in the article that this year's car is not tuned to him. It's more tuned to speed, which will be interesting to see. They've talked about that a little
But
bit.
isn't that what he wanted? He said he didn't want to be comfortable in the car. He wanted a fast car.
Well, yeah, that's we'll see what happens this year. I'm curious if that's true that it's a fast car and not tuned to
Yeah.
Lando. I did think it was interesting. They mentioned that Lando was the backup driver to Daniel Ricciardo. So I'll get into Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
They mentioned that Daniel Ricciardo was the primary for McLaren last year,
Or
and Carlos Sainz was also the primary for McLaren. Which
yeah.
I can understand that more because Lando was very young when it's just starting out with
The other
Carlos.
thing I took away is they were talking about the rivalry between Lauda and Hunt.
Yeah.
You know, the historical rivalry there, and they kind of were talking about him in that that position now. But I'm going, who's his
No,
rivalry
no,
with?
no. They weren't talking about Lando. They were talking about
They're
the only
talking about
modern one,
Hamilton, Max,
Hamilton and Max. Yeah, having the
but
rivalry
they
like
threw
that.
his name in there too.
Well, they said that he
But
doesn't like he cannot have a
oh
rivalry like the old days. Like the old days had a lot of rivalries. They had the bad boys, James
yeah,
Hunt being a bad boy, whereas nowadays like drivers are more like Lando. They're grounded in PR and having a nice
yeah.
base.
I reminisce, and there's a little statue of Nikki up there. those days because it was kind of the bad. It was an affluent sport, but it was also kind of a bad boy sport, and there were rivalries. Hell, their sponsors were Marlboro.
Yeah.
I wish they'd bring that back because those
But
cars look awesome.
yeah, but nowadays there's no more bad boys, and the rivalries seem to have lost because there's a lot more camaraderie, I think, around the drivers. But I think the only one that can compete nowadays is the Max and Lewis one because it's been embroiled in controversy as much as anything.
Yeah.
But that's the only one that can compete. But getting back
Well,
to the whole,
and they've dominated.
yeah, yeah, and they're the best of the best. But getting back to the point I bring this up is this article comes out, and like I said, Drive to Survive is coming out about a month. So the theory around TikTok is that this article came out to get ahead of something that may happen in Drive to Survive. So, and if you don't
Who
aren't
maybe they
aware,
fight physically.
well, if you're unaware, McLaren had a rough year last year with, Lando was doing his driving, but with Daniel Ricciardo leaving, all the controversy with Oscar Piastri, who's now in the second role,
Mm-hmm.
took Daniel's seat. How they essentially have pushed Daniel out. They ended his contract early to give Piastri the role, and then the whole controversy with McLaren, Piastri, and Renault, or Alpine. Um, like
And it's hard to watch because let's face it, Daniel is a fan favorite
super,
too. I think he's a bro.
yeah,
I
super
mean,
likable.
you can't not like the guy.
Yeah, because they did mention in the article, and they very specifically stated how Lando was like friends, like competed as drivers against each other, but they were amicable friends and they
Yeah,
enjoyed each
buddies.
other
And
on
yeah,
track. And that they also mentioned in the article that Daniel also said the same thing. So it was very clear that they made that very clear that they didn't have a bad relationship. And so that's the theory why people think this is trying to get ahead of something that may happen in Drive to Survive. So it'll be interesting. It's something that I think obviously remains to be seen what happens in Drive to Survive when those episodes drop to see if
yeah.
something does happen and if the
There's probably an
theory is
episode where
true.
they fight,
They
or something like
they
that.
definitely didn't fight. They may have gotten an argument or something. I would not. There's no way they got into a fist fight or
I could
anything
also
like
see
that.
there is that age kind of a generational difference. I mean, they're both young, but Daniel seems much older, has been around a long time.
Yeah, he's been
Lando
around the
seems like
block.
the young kid, you know.
I
So
will
we'll see.
say,
But
yeah, we'll see about that. I will say, I don't know if I don't think you saw this, but Daniel Ricciardo was seen on he was part of the TV crew at the Australian Open tennis tournament. He had a camera and he was doing some
he's
filming
always
for
doing
them.
stuff like that. In Austin,
That's pretty
Texas,
funny.
man, he's riding that bull around or whatever. He was doing a cowboy
Yeah,
outfit with the American flag. That's why you can't not like the guy.
yeah, that dude's great. So that was I saw
I mean,
that
you got to admit,
photo.
okay, the old if you had a choice between Lando or Daniel to have a beer in a bar, you'd probably say Lando, but
I
you'd have a much
no
better time with Daniel.
to have a beer in a bar, I'd probably say Daniel. But to for most other things, I shouldn't say most other things. For certain things, it's Lando. Like
To go clothes shopping,
if
you'd
I
go
if
with Lando.
I were to go golfing, I'd go with Lando. Just Lando's a good golfer and he enjoys golfing, and that's like
Well,
the
I
main
heard
thing he
he
does.
has the potential to be a good golfer.
I think he's the best of
He's
the F1. He's the best of the F1
well,
drivers. He's the best golfer
oh,
for
is he?
sure of the
Okay,
F1 drivers. And he goes out a
we'll
lot with
see.
like Carlos and like they mentioned the articles, Zach
Yeah,
Brown and everything. But yeah, so just keep an eye out on it's makes I think Drive to Survive more interesting. So definitely looking forward to that. I mean, I was already looking forward
yeah,
to
same
the
here.
series.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see it, watch it all in one day, back to back as they drop. But should be an interesting one for sure. And centered, I think the season's gonna be centered around McLaren because of all that controversy. Even though
yeah.
Max is back in the seat, so he wasn't in the previous seasons because of he didn't like how Netflix spun things. And now he's back
Well, you got to
in the
admit,
interview chair.
Max,
He's not like Lando.
the,
Lando's good with
he's
chatting.
not likable. He's almost like a pissed
Yeah,
off guy all the time.
he's
And
too
Max, if you ever
competitive.
watch this, I would love to meet you. Great. I think you're very competitive, but You don't seem like a people person, buddy.
Well, I actually think he's like a nice guy, like normally, and I think, but he does get this like because he's hyper competitive. Like
Yeah,
even for an F1 driver, he's hyper competitive. Like a Michael
yeah,
Jordan, like a Tiger Woods, like those guys. I don't people
yeah,
you don't talk about those guys because they're nice guys to talk to. They're just hyper competitive athletes, right? So
yeah.
that's I think Max falls in the
That's what
same
I'm saying.
boat.
That's why the way it's edited, the way it seems is that he's not a likable guy, but I bet he is,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you never know until you actually meet a person.
yeah.
And you got to remember, these guys are followed around constantly by
Some of
whether
the
it's
biggest names in the
paparazzi
world.
or
Yeah,
groupies or, yeah, people wanting to sponsor. So their lives are not their own. It's kind of their lives are the F1 world.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So
So, well, on
anything else on
that
F1?
top there, yeah, F1 looking forward to it. All the teams are
Yeah.
debuting their cars in February, so February's gonna be a big month for F1, and then
And
season's
to
getting
follow
rolling.
up, God, within the next probably 6 months, there's going to have to be a decision on the Andretti GM team.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be
Or if
interesting
it's
to see
not
what
decided in
happens.
6 months, it's over, I think. So, a topic I wanted to ask about, because you're the scientist, kind of, you're studying for your master's, you're in this world, AI. I see you roll
Technology.
your eyes, but some recent articles that came out and surveys, not really in the news, it's not headline news, it's kind of, I heard about it on a radio kind of thing. And the developments in AI, the ability to write a book. I guess there's books being published that were done in AI. The ability to write a song. They actually did a test or some research into um, medical diagnosis. They had patients come in and diagnose with AI versus an actual doctor. And the AI was more accurate because they load the entire history of medicine, basically program it.
Yep.
And then there was also the discussion of, in that same context, just because it's AI does not mean it's not biased, because
Oh
it's the
yeah, yeah.
programmer loading it in, the information in. Because the guy tried to do something in AI that was kind of negative about a politician, and it wouldn't do it. It wouldn't write the article. But if
Yeah.
he put in a positive thing about this politician, a request like, hey, I'll just say, Joe Biden's the greatest president ever, it was able to write it. It wrote a story on him, where if he put in Joe Biden's the worst president ever, nothing would come up. It wouldn't even print the story. So that was kind of interesting and
You
kind
can
of worrisome, man. I
you
don't know
can.
what's
Well, I'll say he's probably using Chat GPT, which is
that's.
the
I was
hot
trying to find it. It's
the hotness.
gener-
You can
generative
go.
pre-trained transformer.
Yeah, so
Probably
you
the
can.
worst naming ever.
It's academic. I mean, you can go onto ChatGPT and type it in yourself if you wanted to right now and get information back. I mean, I can do
So
it right now for you.
what's yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can do it, or a college student can do a paper, but
Um,
apparently there's something embedded in it that won't allow what they said, or I don't know.
yeah.
They
So
said it may.
so ChatGPT is a massive leap. It's very good. There's still definitely some like you can tell it's an AI things. You can have it write a college paper, but it's not gonna sound like a normal person wrote it. In a lot of ways, there
Well,
are
part
other
of this
AIs.
article was, it's getting very close to sounding like a normal
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
too good, is what it comes down to, because they were doing everything from limericks to books to songs.
You can write code with
Um,
it.
yeah, and they were talking about, again, the medical aspect of it, which sounds great, but wow, it can eliminate the
Well,
need for
yes,
doctors in certain areas.
there's one I saw from I think it was Harvard or MIT where they diagnosed with like 97, 95, 93% accuracy
Accuracy.
skin cancer, the
Yeah,
precursors to
that may
skin
be the same
cancer
thing I saw.
by
Yeah,
taking an image of a person and looking at all the different like things on their skin
their
and
skin. Yeah.
the dark spots essentially, and they could tell with like 93+% accuracy which ones are the precursors to skin cancer and which ones you should like worry about and get treatment on. Um but yeah, so there is a bias in a lot of algorithms and um, models and stuff like that, like how you intake data. It's a massive research subject, an extremely important one. Both like how you can trust the answers that come out of it and the ethical aspect of it, how it treats a certain person
Yeah, the
versus
ethical
another.
aspect,
Like,
morality, and they said basically we're in the next 3 to 5 years is a pivotal point in AI. And I'm
yeah,
just thinking,
there's
man,
it's
if you
it's
could
a
diagnose a medical condition, you combine that with automation, robotics, and farming will change. The
farming has
automotive
changed.
industry will
Farming
change. Yeah,
farming
it is
actually has been the most impacted, I would
already.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah, already. Automated treatments, like automated diagnoses, is starting to become a lot more. With the medical field, it's a lot tougher because there's a lot more regulation and it makes sense, laws and stuff to get into the medical field with technology. Like that, you have to bypass, like you have to get through a lot more hoops, and obviously made sense
yeah.
that when you're treating people for a disease and stuff, it has to be correct.
I
And
mean, it's kind of like the early stages of the internet.
yeah,
Everybody thinks it's going to be great for humankind, but there's also going to be a lot of negative things that come out of this.
yeah.
So all those
So
old scary movies may be coming true.
yeah, so there's another one that from the same company that showed off Chat GPT is a they have an image generator. It's called Dolly, DAL-E, and Dolly 2. Actually, it's a second version, and it'll actually generate images for you from any prompt. And there's other ones too. They're I can't remember the exact term for them, but they're image generators where you give it a series of words and you can prompt it and it'll give you an image. Anything you want, it'll give you an image of it. And one of the things that's happened around the internet is a lot of people are posting this like artwork around like art forums or art subreddits or
Yeah,
various things on the internet, and people are getting outraged and annoyed by it because people will just post this AI art that anyone can do, just put in the text and it prints out the art, and the artists are getting upset. So like there was a big controversy with, and I think it's rightfully so, but with a subreddit where they were just banning people left and right for posting AI art, but then someone posted art that they actually made, like handmade, that
yeah,
looked like something that this AI would generate, but it was handmade and they got banned and there was no like questioning it. So it's kind of it's another way to think of like that ethical or like concerning
yeah.
like this
Well,
person made
that's what I
something
was
similar.
thinking about. It's obvious to me the impacts on the medical, the farming, agricultural, things like that, things in manufacturing that we know about. But as I thought about it, uh, I thought about art, culture. Um, if you can load up all these art, all the art in the world, and say create a painting similar to the Mona Lisa, it can be done now.
Yeah,
So it's going to impact artists, craftsmen.
but
It's
I,
going
I
to
think
impact everybody.
I think that's, and I don't think it's an invalid form of art. I think it's very much a valid form of art. It's just another genre of art, right? It's like who's to say that it's invalid art? Like who's to say what art is, right? That's a
Well, that's
big
what I'm
thing in
saying.
art. It's
Art
not
is
not art.
expanded so much. Quite frankly, building a race car is an art.
Yeah.
Painting has always been considered, art. So I think it's gonna the the term artist is going to be expanded greatly over the next few years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And right now, yeah, definitely. So I work in this space. I work with a lot of AI and machine learning models.
well, and the university you're getting your master's at is considered one of the AI universities. I mean,
Yeah,
that's their
there's a pretty
programs.
famous professor here that created a very important algorithm that is a backbone to a lot of models that are used across the world. And but like the key thing right now, so a lot of these companies like OpenAI, who created Chat GPT and Dolly, was just purchased, or I think purchased in most a majority share of it was purchased by Microsoft for 50 billion or some huge amount. And
I'm glad you said
people
Microsoft and not the Chinese government.
no,
So,
Microsoft purchased OpenAI, and people are saying it could be a massive return on investment for them because the power that this OpenAI is exploring with like their Chat GPT, their Dolly, and other algorithms they're doing could is going to be so impactful. And for a company like Microsoft, which has all this other infrastructure and like you talked about the Office apps, their web search, like Bing is not Bing is not used by anyone. I mean, it's used, but
Yeah.
compared to Google, it's Bing, right? But you leverage the power of like OpenAI and what they have in various forms like that. And one of the interesting use cases that it's used right now in you talk about Chat GPT, advertising, marketing, like they can instantly create
It,
for companies in Bing search because advertising revenue is huge. Advertisements for them across and vary the advertisements so no one person sees the same advertisement each time.
yeah, so they can each person can see a specific ad targeted to them
And
based
it,
on
it's
AI,
yeah,
which is scary.
it's not just like the product is targeted, but the content of the ad specifically is targeted to you.
Yeah.
Not just like, oh, this product, but like how it's worded and the imaging, or
Tell
how
you
it
what,
looks and everything.
I mean, I'll be in the grave, but it's scary what could happen with the human race. I mean,
I
what are people gonna? They're gonna have to go to the gym all day long just to stay healthy
it's
because work
it's
will be redefined.
it's scary is a way to put it. I think it's also exciting. Like
Intimidating. It's exciting, yeah.
it's every single adjective on in the dictionary could describe it. Like the use cases are so wide because you do have you are thinking of a lot of negative use cases, and there's obviously a lot of them, and they're
Yeah, I'm an
important to
old
think
guy.
about. Yeah, yeah, you've gotten into that. Every old guy has negative
I'm of the
Nancy.
generation that had a clutch and a stick in a car and jump started cars. You know,
Excuse me,
they almost don't exist anymore.
I've
You've driven one too,
never
but
I've only owned
they
one
also
automatic vehicle, so
but I mean the fact that you can take a little handheld computer, plug it into your car and find out what's wrong with it is amazing these
yeah,
days. I
yeah.
mean,
It's
it wasn't that way.
well, and nowadays
Oh,
the technology that's in a car is, uh,
oh wait, a little
whew.
tangent just for a second. I watched the new Netflix show, the 90s, the 70s show has a
Oh,
new
that
version
'90s
called the
show,
90s.
that '90s show.
So Fez, all the old characters come back and do a cameo,
I'm only on
but
episode
Fez
two.
comes back and guess what he's driving?
I'm only on episode two, but I assume he's driving a Tesla.
No, Blue Miata. It's
Oh,
the
oh, it's the
90s.
'90s. Yeah, the yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's
Well,
driving your old Miata basically.
and the lady that lives next door, the like that dates the guy's old lady, and she starts off the show. She's like dating a guy with a blue Miata, and
Yeah,
there's
that's
obviously
Fez.
Fez.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So,
um,
all right.
but yeah, I
I,
mean, AI is it's a huge topic. Obviously, it's when you talk about impactful, revolutionary changes,
mhm.
in throughout history, obviously the computer, the internet, phones, stuff like that, recent technological innovations that, you know, the similar, innovations, if you think about it like 1,000 years ago, they didn't come around except for every like couple hundred years.
Well,
Nowadays,
these are every
they're coming
100 days,
every,
man.
yeah, they're coming
Yeah.
so fast and they're evolving so fast, and
Hey,
AI is the current one, right? So,
all right, we should probably wrap up, but I want to ask because you say the internet, and I almost said, well, you know, is Al Gore going to take credit for AI? Is Davos a story in Europe?
what is Davos?
The city in Switzerland where all the leaders of the world flew in to talk about the environment. They do it every year. It's like super rich politicians, and you don't know what Davos is?
No idea what that is.
Wow, wow, they're there this week. So yeah,
Davos.
I mean everybody from the CEO of Pfizer to Al Gore to uh, it, and they're there to talk about the green policy and global warming and all that, but they all fly in on private jets. So
Let me see.
I mean, you're so close to Davos. I thought maybe
I thought you said Davos. I thought that was like some Middle Eastern city, like the
it
great
does
city
sound
of
like it, but no, you
Davos.
fly into Zurich and then They had one CEO or one guy fly like at 60 miles away. He still took a private jet in.
Yeah, no, no, I didn't know it was happening.
It's in the Alps. It's in
Sounds like a
Switzerland.
nice
It,
place.
yeah, they've been doing it for years. I mean, decades. But it's getting more controversial because they talk about limiting certain things, everything from don't eat meat to only drive electric cars, but they all take private jets in.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's gonna happen, and you know the I guess the thing with that it's interesting because you think
but
about
it's a
like
lead story here in the states, is what I'm saying. I was curious if it was even making the news there.
I don't know, I don't really look at the primary news sources in Austria. I don't read a
I
lot
actually
of
don't think this
normal
would be a
news.
story in Austria. That's why I was curious if it even made the news
Well,
there.
I don't read a lot of normal news, I guess.
Yeah,
So it's not a but like I guess that's what I was gonna say is like it's interesting to think if you were in their shoes at that level of wealth and power. I put that in quotes, right? You'd probably do the same thing. Like you'd probably be the same. And I
well,
guess
no,
it.
no. I would never shame any. I want everybody to take. I would like to take a private jet, but to shame other people for doing the same thing or wanting to do it or to
Yeah.
travel or anything like that is because Al Gore got on there and talked about the boiling oceans, and people are saying, "What boiling oceans?"
Well, I
You know,
guess
um,
then I guess you would so outdoors one side of it, then your other favorite, not your favorite, but Greta Thunberg.
Elon.
Um,
Oh, geez, it's a
so you
mental
take
patient.
so they but they they they're activists for the same concepts, right? They're
Yes,
aligned on what they
yes.
think, but outdoors on that side of the things, and Greta Thunberg is getting dragged out of the mud in Germany for protesting a pipeline, like literally in the mud. There's a funny video of Mud
I
Jesus
did see
guy.
that here. Yeah,
You saw Mud Jesus though.
I didn't see
Um,
much. I just saw Greta Thunberg taken by four cops out
yeah, yeah,
of.
but she's out in the thick of it at least. You know, we're outdoors doing whatever this is, and she's
But
out
here's the
doing the thick of it.
hypocrisy of it: Britain, the U.S., the Western countries, we could eliminate all our carbon and
Yeah,
everything, and it
mm,
wouldn't
fine.
impact global warming because the problem is in China and India.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the Western. I mean, we're not contributing that much if you agree that there is global warming.
yeah.
So
But it's I
yeah,
find I understand like the rich guys, the outdoors, the world, like you know
if you were to go
they're
back
staying
10
and doing
years
different
ago
things.
to Davos, they were talking about the ozone layer, the UV rays were coming through. Well, nobody talks about it now because that ozone layer is small. It's healed up.
It's
It's not
healed
there anymore.
itself, yeah. But I think
So
that there's some impacts that you know is Australia is where it was happening, and I think they've made some decent changes. But yeah, understand. I think it's outdoors the one side of it. His type of activism. You look at someone championing for the same thing. Greta Thunberg, that's really like in
what?
the
Well, Al
literally in the
Gore
mud of it.
when he left his vice presidency, his net worth was $2 million. Since he became a global activist for weather and climate change and all that, yeah, his wealth
Yeah,
is I think is at 180 million.
I don't understand this.
I mean,
That's for every person in government positions, and it's insane.
yes, they
We
go
both
into
agree on
politics
this.
poor and come out. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's both, and it's not like one side or the other. Like you can take two of the most in U.S. politics, two of the most opposite ends of it, right? You take Bobert from Colorado and what's her name from Brooklyn?
Pelosi. Oh,
No,
AOC.
AOC, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez from Brooklyn. You take Bobert from Colorado. Both so Cortez was bartender. Bobert was a bankrupt restaurateur, stay
Yeah,
at home mom,
and now
right?
they're
So
millionaires.
they're both like extremists of the political spectrum, but they both came in poor and with no money, and now they're both worth like $30 million. Like, makes no sense. Like, it's
Yeah.
just shouldn't be that
And
way.
I will point out, folks, I would be more than happy to run for Congress and run one term and get out just so I could get the benefits, the pension, the health care that would go on until I'm buried
So
6 feet under.
I do want there's a before we end this and we're on this subject.
I
Um,
know we keep going out.
yeah. Um, let me. I want you, and I'm curious, like um, if you will follow him or check out his videos and what's your reactions to it. He pops up on my TikTok page. Very often, and I think it's interesting. And I don't know what the behind the scenes of it is and how if there's PR behind it, whatnot. There probably is, but there is a House representative from North Carolina, 14th District, NC 14. I see here. It's Representative Jeff Jackson. So he's a freshman member of Congress. He
Is
has
he
been
the super young guy?
no, he's middle aged.
Oh,
So he's a freshman member of Congress, just got elected from North Carolina, and he posts a lot of videos on TikTok, just straight talking to the camera, talking about behind the scenes stuff. He talked through getting his office. He talked through how they weren't electing um, the Speaker of the House. He talked through what that is going appointments, moving to Washington, all that kind of stuff, right? And he's talked through all of it, kind of behind the scenes. He's talked about his finances, which is very interesting.
yeah,
He owns no stocks, but he does have index funds, right? So he's completely open about his finances. Where he said,
he,
I have a normal mortgage. I have a 30-year mortgage. He owns a
yeah,
used Ford Fusion. His wife has a used 2011 SUV that they both financed them. They had 5-year loans on them. He's had like 4 Ford Fusions, which terrible pick, man. Like just get a better
yeah, yeah.
sedan.
Not a
But
good.
it's
Yeah.
it's been rather interesting. I think he's a Democrat. I'm not 100% sure.
He is a Democrat. I looked it up because he's not the guy I was thinking of.
Yeah, so I'd be curious, like if you watch his stuff on TikTok and follow him along, what you think of what he's doing. Because to me, it seems like his he's very well mannered. He seems very normal. Seems very down to earth, and I'm curious, like if you watch some of his stuff and as he goes along, what your thoughts are on like I guess it's kind of a behind the scenes of Congress.
Without getting into, he kind of reminds me of Buttigieg, whatever. I kind of thought I liked him because of the way he presented himself, but his policies. So I'll look at his policies and find out. But I thought you were going out. There's a guy that was elected, a young guy, and he started posting on social media about not being able to find housing in DC.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
felt like
yeah.
saying, "No shit,
So
dumbass. Have you ever been to DC? In
we
the
have
worst of times, the economy is booming there. In the best of times, the economy is booming because they're spending your taxpayer dollars. During the
he
last recession that you and I were in Washington, I said, look at all these cranes. They're still
he
building like crazy here.
he had to. I saw that he had to move there. I don't know his name or where he's from, but he had to move there and he hadn't gotten paid yet from
Yeah,
Congress. So he's like, and I understand that. That makes sense, right? Like,
yeah, but it was funny. I think he thought he'd get an apartment, but there are congressmen who've been there for decades that sleep in their office because the housing's too expensive.
yeah,
And they have families back home and say, I don't know, Indiana or Iowa or wherever. So it's never been, I mean, it's no different now. It's still expensive. It was back then. So a lot of people just lived in their offices until they could afford to get an apartment, could find one.
yeah,
Or they got an apartment and there were 3 or 4 congressmen to an apartment.
yeah. It's American politics or something.
Well, politics everywhere.
Yeah,
That's just
yeah,
the
yeah.
way it is.
Politics everywhere. American is more. It's a reality TV drama that behind closed doors.
As I tell people, if they want to elect me king for 6 years, I'll straighten everything out. But for that 6 years as king, you can't question anything I do.
Yeah.
So
So
with that, we should
yeah,
move
we'll
on.
we'll end it here. A fun episode. I think learned about a new soccer league you're gonna start watching. Maybe it's still on.
Yeah,
Kings
jumped
League.
around quite a bit.
Yeah, jumped around some various topics. So we hope you enjoyed it. This At Wits End podcast anniversary episode
Oh, and the merch, we got a compliment. Uh,
20.
Somebody yesterday told me they loved their new tumbler.
My
It
logo
keeps
is
us coffee
amazing.
warm. Yes, it is. So very positive feedback from the merch.
Let's
So let us know, man. Contact us. We'll send some out.
we should post a review on our Facebook page. You should all go
Yeah.
follow our Facebook page at Wits End. You can find our vodcast on YouTube at Wits End. You have a TikTok that I haven't posted to in a little while, but need to post more stuff at Wits End with an underscore at the end of it. And finally, if you're listening to us, you probably listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, and we appreciate you listening. So, with that, wanted to
Yep.
hear on this Sunday evening for me, Sunday morning for you, episode 20 of the
Choose.
Wits End podcast.
Choose. Ciao. Goodbye.